Here we go. This morning, it broke that Michigan's defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale, who we've been very, let's just say, sinusoidal about this year, we at first we were like, I don't know about this. And then the last couple of games, Ohio State, Alabama, putting up 10 and 13 respectively. I think a lot of us, I know I was one who was early a Wink detractor, and then I said, you know what, those shades look great. Let's keep him. But today it was announced that Wink Martindale is interviewed at the Atlanta Falcons today, the Colts Wednesday, aka tomorrow, and potentially the Bengals and other teams are also interested.
Yep.
Which, of course, does run contrary. TJ, you mentioned this. We talked about this before the show that he did say he wanted to be here. He might want to retire as a Michigan DC, but here we go, and we're back at it. Another off season with NFL intrigue and Michigan potentially needing to fill a big hole.
Yeah, so we're used to this as a fan base. The NFL always poking around at our coaches. They don't poke around Ohio State's coaches. You ever notice that, John? They never poke around the Ohio State coaches. It's a very curious situation with that. But anyways, so here's how this could turn out. Now, yes, Wink Martindale is getting courted right now. That said, Wink Martindale does have a track record. And that track record is he does butt heads with head coaches. So I think it's potentially possible Wink does return. I think it's possible he returns. Now, do I think it's also possible? Yeah, of course it's possible he leaves. But, a lot of these vacancies are going to have tons of candidates being interviewed. Like they'll interview 5 to 6 guys. We'll see if Wink lands on any of these. As we spoke about before the show, John, Wink did tell Michigan he wanted to end his coaching career at Michigan. We've heard that before. So we know we can't, buy into that. But, we'll find out how this transpires. It will be interesting to see if he does leave Michigan and if he doesn't leave Michigan and what that means for Michigan, because I think we would all agree that if Wink were to stay, our defenses, we can expect a pretty high, a highly efficient, highly capable defense next season. Now, what is the ceiling if a new defensive coordinator comes in? And then the question becomes, who is that defensive coordinator? We won't know until that happens. And me and John will discuss 2 potential, and we'll get to it, John. I don't want to get to it just yet, but we'll discuss 2 potential candidates early candidates that we are speculating would be candidates. We'll get into that in just a minute. But I just want to say, depending on who this coordinator is, John, this really does potentially affect the outlook for next year, because our defense is supposed to be our strength next year. We have a new offense being implemented. There's an unknown there. We don't even truly know who's going to be starting week 1. Is it Underwood? Is it Mikey Keene? We don't really know. Is Philip Lindsay is that offensive line going to be strong enough given the current situation it's at, which we'll talk about some portal players they're looking at to strengthen that offensive line. We'll have in the portal update for you guys. So there's a lot of unknown here. And this would be, let's be also honest here, a blow. This would suck to lose Wink Martindale. Now, let's qualify that. Mm-hmm. We have hired good defensive coordinators every year. Mike McDonald, Kirk Campbell, and not Kirk Campbell. Fucking Jesse Minter, forgive me. GT got me all messed up. Jesse Minter and Wink Martindale, right? Now we can look at, unless you got anything else on that, John, we can discuss who we think could be potentially filling that role.
Well, I will just say that despite the early, let's say, growing pains of learning the college or readjusting to the college game, Michigan did have the number 11 total defense to end the season, number 5 rushing defense, number 5 in the country, and number 19 scoring defense.
It's wild when you look at the start of the year and how they closed it. Their schedule only got stronger. We had Oregon in November. We had Ohio State in November. We had Alabama in December, guys. Like the schedule only got tougher and we got better. Look at what he achieved. And I'm not trying to break anyone's heart here, but look at what we achieved without the Mason Grahams and the Kenneth Grants and the Will Johnsons, right? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he actually leaves. I'm not sold he is going to leave because I'm telling you guys, NFL circles are small, and Wink does have a reputation, guys. There's a reason why Wink came back to college last year because he has a reputation. He's very stubborn. He does butt heads with head coaches. So we'll see. We'll see how this one shakes out.
We will indeed. If Wink does decide to go to the Falcons, the Colts, the Bengals, or somewhere else, we do have some ideas of who should potentially be the next Michigan defensive coordinator, and it's really two names. And both of these we picked because they will maintain this Ravens style system, this multiple D, the 4-2-5, and then also some 4-3 concepts. The Ravens system that has been built to defeat Ohio State for 4 straight, still feels good, 4 straight years of beating Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
And so you think we're going to switch now to like a different system? No. So here are the two. We got Lamar Morgan, who was, of course, the defensive coordinator of Louisiana. He has defensive coordinator experience already. Yep. Makes a lot of sense. So what, I guess we'll take them one by one. So for Lamar, I mean, what do you think the chances are, and how do you think things would shift or change with him taking the job?
So in terms of chances, it's tough to call right now because Wink's not gone, and we really don't know the list of candidates. But if Wink does happen to move on, I fully expect at least Lamar Morgan to have a discussion with Sharon Moore. As you mentioned, former defensive coordinator of Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Also from the Jesse Minter coaching tree, worked with Jesse Minter in Vanderbilt, carries a lot of Jesse Minter's philosophy in terms of back-end defense. And one of the things that is common in the NFL and college is your defensive back coach typically transition best to coordinator roles. Typically, defensive line coaches don't always transition to the coordinator roles, defensive coordinator roles, because the back end of the defense is so complex. Lamar Morgan has that down. And we literally saw, as the season developed, our corners get better. Our safeties get better, right? So you saw Zeke Berry and Jair Hill start locking Amir Hall. You saw the development. You saw the growth. You saw Brandon Hillman flash, and you saw Mason Curtis flash. You saw flashes from a bunch of guys. So I think Lamar, and let's not forget, hell of a recruiter. Our best recruiter. So I think he is a potential candidate. But here's what gives me pause here, John. Does Sharon Moore want to go down this road again, where you have an inexperienced defensive coordinator? Yes, he was at the Raging Cajuns, but Kirk Campbell also had former offensive coordinator experience too at Old Dominion, right? So do you want to go down that road where you have a former defensive coordinator at a smaller school? Do you want to risk your season on that? Can we afford that? Or is Sharon Moore, and we can get into Deanne Lynn here unless you got anything else on Lamar Morgan, but is Sharon Moore going to look for someone who's a bit more experienced, has a bit more, is a bit more versed in the Ravens system because they are directly from the Ravens system, and that would be Deanne Lynn.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So, and then I know Mike Fort was like, I'm going to punch you in the face if you say Deanne Lynn's name because he sees USC and they're garbage. But you know what? Here's what I want to caution everybody. Jesse Minter was at Vanderbilt and they were garbage. The problem is USC, and hopefully Tim's not watching, they don't play complementary football. Their offense does not aid the defense. The style of play that we play benefits our defense. Our goal is sustain long drives, give the defense a break, and allow for there to be complementary football. So there's a balance between offense and defense. USC doesn't play that way. Their offense is an aggressive attack that literally makes the defense vulnerable. It also, puts the defense in bad positions when they cause high turnovers. So for Michigan, it's about efficient football, and our defensive scheme that we've ran the last 4 years is complements that strategic approach that Michigan likes to run. So I think if D'Anton Lynn had a change of scenery, and let's be honest too, this is an appealing job, guys. We have literally had three straight defensive coordinators go directly to the NFL. If Wink Martindale does leave, right? So this will, in my opinion, this position will be in demand. I do think Sharon Moore, and Sharon Moore is kind of, let's be real too, guys. Sharon Moore has proven he's made some quality hires, right? Wink Martindale, quality hire. Let's not count Kirk Campbell. Tony Alford, quality hire. So you've seen in my guy Lou Esposito, who gave me a follow on Twitter, by the way. Shout out to you, Lou. Shout out to you. And then Brian Jean-Marie had a hell of a year as a linebackers coach, right? And then Lamar Morgan, another good hire. So he's made a lot of good hires. Questionable hires, JB Brown, Kirk Campbell, and the Ron Bellamy saga is an interesting one. We were talking about that before the show too, John. But regardless, the point being is I think we need to give Sharon Moore some confidence here and some trust, because he has done a good job of filling positions. We'll see if Wink actually leaves. It's possible he doesn't, but if he does, I'm going to give Sharon some trust here.
Yeah. D'Anton Lynn, I understand why people are skeptical, but if you do your digging, you do your research, you know that he has that Ravens background. He knows what we do. I don't think there's very much interest in changing the Michigan defense. I in terms of complete scheme change. Will each DC bring their own flavor, their own way of play calling? Some will blitz more, some will go more man, some are going to go more zone, some are going to show more exotic blitzes, some are going to each one has their own style. But I don't think that we can afford a wholesale defense shift change when there's already a wholesale or at least somewhat of an offense change that's going to be happening. So I think these are your two options.
I agree. Well, early candidates.
Yeah.
Early candidates.
The ones that I think make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Early candidates until we can see, see in we're going to get a super chat here from Kyle in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure candidates will fall from the tree. We'll talk about that when we get that super chat though.
Yeah. So in, let's see. So in 2024, the USC defense, all right, was 77th in the country. However, in 2023, it was at the bottom. It was at 121st in terms of total defense. And so because of that, it's not amazing. We're not flipping cartwheels. However, we also need to remember that under Alex Grinch, USC couldn't tackle to save their life. There were no fundamentals. And whatever you want to say about D'Anton Lynn, he instilled that in the team.
What was Jesse Minter's defense ranked at Vanderbilt? I know we don't have it in front of us. Okay. But the point being is that was a poor defense too. It wasn't some strong unit. What we're bringing to Michigan is scheme. And just so you know, D'Anton Lynn is actually very well respected in coaching circles. There's a belief that he's an up and comer. And let's also be honest too, guys. Lincoln Riley has had poor defenses since his days at Oklahoma. In my opinion, again, hopefully Tim's not watching because I'm sure we'll hear it. But
yeah, we're going to hear about it if he is.
Bro, that's a culture problem. There's just a lack of, although I will say they are investing heavily in defensive line. We see this. We've lost some targets to them. And the reality is too, they're losing the trench war. I mean, that's a big problem to why their defense is getting scorched. But even so, I think D'Anton Lynn's an interesting option. And I'm sure Michigan, listen, we have these two names here. I'm sure there's going to be additional names if Wink does happen to make the jump to the NFL.
Yeah, it's something that we'll have to look at. Obviously, Wink is one of the highest paid defensive coordinators in football. Even in the NFL, he'd be fourth in the NFL. If you were to take his salary into the NFL, it would be fourth in the entire league. in college, it was number 1, I believe. So because of that, like, yeah, Michigan may try to counter a little bit. I think Wink, if he wants to go back, he's probably going to go back, right? But I think we're going to be okay, and obviously we'll keep you updated as quickly as things transpire. With that said, we have some additional super chats and some big gifted memberships too that we do want to highlight here. So Detroit Kyle is back with the dose. Anyone on Harb's staff waiting in the bullpen?
Yeah, listen, I don't have any names currently, but I talked to John before we were. Yes, I mean, of course, I guarantee you, whether it be the Ravens staff, whether it be the Chargers or the Seahawks, there's somebody who's in a position like Jesse Minter was or Mike McDonald, right? And they're ready to take that leap as a coordinator because they're a positional coach or something along those lines. And maybe because Harbaugh probably sees the writing on the wall with Jesse Minter. He's probably going to want his next defensive coordinator getting some training on the job like his brother did when he was at the Ravens when his Ravens took Mike McDonald back. I think that's very feasible. We're going to find out, though. I expect fully, I know we gave you guys 2 early names, but I fully expect that list to evolve if Wink Martindale does leave. And to John's point, Wink Martindale's contract, I just looked, is 4th in all of football, college and pro. So, this is going to be an appealing job, guys. Every coordinator, the last 3 coordinators has had NFL interest or went to the NFL, and it is the 4th highest paying defensive coordinator job. It'll be okay. They'll figure it out. I trust Michigan here. I'm not too concerned about it. The only thing that sucks is there could be another adjustment period. But if also, let's be honest too, it could be an upgrade. We've been hitting it hot. Like we've been hot on the coordinator hires. So we'll see what the boys can do with that.
Yeah, I think that the one staffer that I'd be looking at is Steve Klinkscale. I understand that there were some fences that were let's say ripped when on his way out. I understand that. If for whatever reason though it doesn't work out with Lamar Morgan, I do think that at least from Klink's perspective, he's currently a DB's coach. If Jesse Minter decides to stay one more year before taking a head coaching job, then I think, well, then this is an opportunity where he could be a defensive coordinator potentially.
What if Klink now? Well, first off, shout out to my boy Greg. I see you in the chat, bro. And then secondly, what if Klink is that coach to come back to Michigan for a developmental opportunity, and then when Jesse Minter gets poached to be a head coach next year, Klink goes back to the Chargers to be the defensive coordinator. Now, again, to qualify though, and look, this is just some, words behind the scenes. Apparently, Klink kind of rattled some cages on his way out. So we'll see. I don't know how feasible that really is. Apparently, wasn't the smoothest of exits.
Well, I didn't have him on these 2 because of what you just said, TJ. But I think that's the first name that comes to mind to answer your super chat, Detroit Kyle. Another one with the 5 here, Detroit Kyle. Personally, I don't think he leaves with the success he's finding at this level. I think he likes the security he has earned. Just my opinion. So this Detroit Kyle's on your kind of on your wavelength, TJ. Think he might stay.
Well, I think he might stay because I'm not sure the NFL is ready for Wink Martindale again. But if he gets the opportunities, he'll go. Because here's why. The work-life balance, believe it or not, is better in the pros than college. It's not year-round like it is in college, and you don't have to recruit 18-year-old kids. It's a bit, and also the quality of travel. I mean, not that Michigan doesn't travel at a high level, they do, but in terms of like the NFL, it's just on another level. I mean, it just is. It's not a college expense budget. It's an NFL expense budget. So it's just, if a coach gets an opportunity to jump to the league, they're going to do it. It's very rare that they don't.
Yeah.
The only time you don't do it is if you're not going to succeed like an Urban Meyer.
Right. Right. And listen, I mean, that's like when we were discussing this, I think it was right as you were joining last year, TJ, when we were talking about the coaches that were exiting to go with to go with Jim Harbaugh or elsewhere. I think the big thing that we kept mentioning was the work-life balance difference. And
Yeah.
how it isn't as much like this isn't like a malicious thing. This is like, okay, in college you're working 365 24/7. There's some stories in The Price of What It Takes to Win about Nick Saban working on Christmas and calling people in on Christmas. Kirby Smart being the only one to match his energy, and some of those stories about just how dedicated constantly these coaches are. And then you go to the NFL and you don't have to recruit. And you could take a couple of months. You can go on some vacations with your
Right. There's an
family.
off season.
There's actually a real off season. And yeah, are there administrative things to do? Are there decisions that have to be made? Of course.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah, but
Staff changes, dealing with turnover,
yeah,
things like that. But like compared to what you have to deal with in college with recruiting, transfer portal, NIL,
yeah.
massaging 17, 18-year-old kids' egos, right? Like all of
Oh,
these
yeah.
things that you have to juggle and deal with. And by the way, coach football.
Yeah.
Still got to coach football.
Yeah, because you know what our coaches were doing last week during the dead period? They were traveling to like fucking Hawaii and Texas and Florida.
Mm-hmm.
They were not with their families. Like there's no off season in college. I mean, there's a moment here and there where they can go with their families, but for the most part, you're either traveling or you're doing your job.
Yeah. So it's very possible that he does go because of work life. I don't know what's in Wink Martindale's head, and I only have like this. This actually, this kind of took me by surprise a little bit today. When I heard this news, I was like, okay, makes sense, but I thought we'd get another year. Like
Yeah.
I thought we'd get one more year, and then he'd kind of pick his final NFL job. You know, his last hurrah in the NFL.
Yeah, I thought we were getting one more year. I was not anticipating the NFL. And again, like here's the thing too, though, guys. Like NFL could be putting out feelers. Like just seeing, you know, because they'll do that. Like they'll interview like 4 to 6 candidates. You know, it doesn't mean he's gone. Like it doesn't. We'll see though. You know, it's possible. You know, it's possible he is, but it's also potentially possible we get Wink back. So